Hello and welcome to another Brawl video. Today we're checking out this mono-red land destruction deck featuring Fang Foom as our commander, a 4-mana 3/5 flyer, saying whenever we cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets an artifact or land, we get to copy that spell, choose new targets, and put 2 +1/+1 counters on our commander. So the goal is to get Fang Foom in play as quickly as possible, and then start copying our sweet land destruction spells. So then if we take a look at our deck breakdown, I've split it up into a few different categories, starting with mana acceleration, mostly 2-mana artifacts, so we can already play our commander on turn 3. Then we also have our removal section. This includes a couple sweepers, so we can clean up the board of whatever creatures our opponent managed to play before we destroyed all their lands. We also have some artifact removal, since that also synergizes with Fang Foom. And then we also have some spot removal to clean things up. And then we get to the land destruction. These are mostly 4-mana sorceries, so they are quite pricey, but if you consider that with 4 mana you get to now destroy 2 lands, it's usually worth it. And then these can also sometimes destroy artifacts instead, so we have that flexibility of either destroying lands or artifacts. And then we've got a few late game card draw engines to make sure we don't run out of spells to cast in the late game, a few ways to copy our spells as well, so we can once again maybe double dip a second time after copying our spell with our commander already. And then we've got a few planeswalkers. Since this is a pretty controlling deck at the end of the day, we're not playing a lot of creatures ourselves, we can keep the board clear with our removal and our board wipes, so then a planeswalker is perfect to help provide additional mana, some card advantage, and they can also double up as removal for opposing creatures. And then finally, our miscellaneous section has a couple ways to protect our commander from removal, since our game plan heavily revolves around it. Redirect Lightning can even redirect a counterspell that's on the stack. And then we've got a bit more non-basic land hate. These cards do not get copied by Fang Foom, but they still complement our land destruction plan nicely. If we manage to blow up the opponent's basic lands, for instance, then now a card like Blood Moon, turning all non-basics into mountains, can completely shut down the opponent's remaining mana base. So that's our deck in a nutshell. Now for the deep dive, starting with our mana acceleration. We do have a couple ritual effects, which can give us an extra mana, or even 2 in the case of Seething Song, to deploy our commander, or some of our more expensive planeswalkers can be very nice to get in play ahead of schedule. Then we've got our typical 2-mana artifacts, Arcane Signet, Cold Steel Heart, Guardian Idol, Mind Stone, Ruby Medallion to discount our red spells by 1, Solar Transformer, and the Iron Crag. There's the Tablet of Discovery, which is perfect in a deck that wants to cast lots of expensive instants and sorceries. The Scarlet Witch can also discount those 4-mana sorceries by 2. There's the Worn Power Stone making 2 mana. Fire Crystal is a bigger version of the Ruby Medallion, also giving our creatures haste. And then we've got Pyromancer's Goggles, which can make a red mana, and if we use that mana to cast an instant or sorcery, we also get to copy it, so also very nice with our many land destruction spells. Then we've got our removal, where we've got a few spot removal spells at 1 mana with Flame Slash and the classic Lightning Bolt. Abrade has the flexibility of dealing 3 to a creature or destroying an artifact, so can also synergize nicely with Fang Foom. Then Hulk Smash can both remove an opposing non-creature artifact, as well as take out an opposing creature if we enable it with Teamwork, and then we can maybe copy it with our commander to do it twice. Then we've got a couple board wipes here. At 2 mana, there's Pyroclasm, dealing 2 to every creature. We also have Avengers Disassembled, which also destroys an opposing land, which lets us copy this with Fang Foom, so we can now deal 3 damage twice, which can be a big difference between just dealing 3 damage. There's Brotherhood's End, can either deal 3 to creatures and planeswalkers or destroy all artifacts with mana value 3 or less, so it can also be useful if the opponent's generating most of their mana with artifacts, then we can still blow those all up, while we already have plenty of land destruction. There's Sweltering Suns, which can always be cycled if we don't need it anymore. We also have Fiery Confluence, which has several modes we can choose from. If one of those is to destroy an artifact, we can copy it with our commander, but can also simply deal 3 to each creature, or maybe 6 to our opponent. And then the Nibelheim of Flame can also deal a lot of damage to all opposing creatures if we have a large Fang Foom on the battlefield. Can also be flashed back. There's Storm's Wrath, dealing 4 to each creature and planeswalker. And then Star of Extinction also targets a land, destroying it, dealing 20 to each creature and planeswalker. So it can also be a nice catch-up mechanism. Then we've got a few more spot removal spells with the Untimely Malfunction, has several modes, can also maybe redirect a removal spell, but can also destroy artifacts. The Overwhelming Surge can choose both modes if we'd like, dealing 3 to a creature and destroying a non-creature artifact. So then if we get to copy this by maybe targeting an opposing artifact, we can deal 6 to creatures the opponent controls, so that's also very nice with our commander. There's also Chandra's Revolution, which, while it doesn't destroy a land, will tap it down for a turn, and by targeting a land, we now get to deal 4 damage to 2 of the opponent's creatures, so also very good with Fang Foom. And that pretty much wraps up our removal section. Then we have our Land Destruction. At 2 mana, Cleansing Wildfire and Price of Freedom can destroy a land, replacing it with a basic land, but we also get to draw. So with Finn, we get to now draw 2 cards and replace a bunch of the opponent's lands with basics. So if they're playing some 4 or 5 color deck, it's possible they'll eventually run out of basic lands to get, so then these effects turn into actual land destruction. Price of Freedom can also target artifacts. The Gambit is 3 mana and the lands enter untapped, so it's definitely the weakest of these 3. Then Stone Rain is the most efficient land destruction spell at 3 mana, can also destroy basics with it. Got the Sundering Eruption, which can also be played as a land instead. The Artisan first needs to be played as a 3/2 with haste, and then for 2 mana we can destroy target non-basic land. Boomy Bash can also be removal for creatures equal to the number of lands we control, or we can destroy target non-basic with it. Crumble to Dust exiles target non-basic land. It is devoid, so it does not get the discount from Ruby Medallion or Fire Crystal, which is important to keep in mind. Then a Demolish can destroy either an artifact or a land. The fire is very similar. And we also have Smashing Success, which can also give us a treasure if we destroyed an artifact with it. And then Rubble Reading destroys a land, lets us scry 2, and both Seismic Shift and Tectonic Rift also make it harder for the opponent to block, in addition to destroying a land. Then we get to our card draw section. Seasoned Pyromancer can help cycle through the deck, maybe make some elemental tokens in the process. Count on Luck can exile the top card each turn that we get to play until end of turn. The One Ring, of course, doesn't need an introduction, can be a very powerful card draw engine that also protects us for a turn. Double Vision to copy the first instant or sorcery spell we cast, it's also very nice if we can copy our land destruction with it. Arcane Bombardment can get back instants and sorceries from the graveyard when casting those spells. And then the Improvisation Capstone can also help take over the late game with a Paradigm mechanic, casting additional spells for free each turn. Then our Planeswalkers include Chandra, Torch of Defiance, can also make mana or deal 4 damage to a creature when she enters. Koth can search up additional mountains and deals damage equal to the number of mountains we control, another reason to run as many mountains in the deck as possible. Jaya can plus to make 3 mana that we get to spend on instants and sorceries, but can also loot through our hand, discarding and drawing up to 3 cards. Then a Chandra Hope's Beacon, another way of copying the first instant and sorcery spell we cast, can also make mana or dig for those instants and sorceries, and can also just deal damage divided as we choose with a -X ability. And then Ugin, another card draw engine that also synergizes with some of our mana artifacts, which can now also exile an opposing and non-land permanent, gives us an answer to enchantments, which mono-red is otherwise very weak to. And then our miscellaneous section we mostly mentioned with Redirect Lightning and Lightning Greaves. There's Flashback to get back a removal spell or one of our land destruction spells. And then Zhao, Blood Moon, and Magus of the Moon are more ways to punish non-basic lands. And then our mana base is mostly basic mountains. We also have Valakut, which is a payoff for playing all those mountains, as they can now start dealing 3 damage when they enter. And then both Demolition Field and Field of Ruin, another way to maybe destroy a non-basic if our opponent is light on basic lands in the deck. And then Gemstone Caverns can maybe give us a mana boost if we're on the draw, since our deck can be a bit slow to get going. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play, facing Mikey and Leo, a +1 counter deck. My hand is okay. Hoping Pyroclasm lines up. Don't have any 2 mana Accelerant. And the Scarlet Witch doesn't discount the Fire Crystal, but once we get both in play, we can pretty cheaply cast our spells. Opponent with the fetch. Do I Pyroclasm if they play Mana Elf, or do I wait to try and get more value? Probably need to get at least 2 creatures with this Pyroclasm. And Paw Patch isn't the scariest, so I'll pass. Mikey and Leo. So now Pyroclasm looks good. Next turn Finn, and then can take it from there, or we could go for a Fire Crystal first. Yeah, especially if they keep up a bunch of mana, they could have creature removal, less likely to see an instant speed answer to my artifact. So then with a Scarlet Witch we can play 1 mana, Rubble Reading. So yeah, it does look like they have creature removal up. See what they do about a Scarlet Witch. So yeah, we have options. I think I start by destroying a land. Can make it the basic. Since Boomy Bash can only destroy non-basics. Scry 2, and then Tablet into Demolish would be pretty nice. So can keep as is. And then... yeah, let's just Boomy Bash the Gathering Place. And they can use the Ooze if they'd like. And then maybe next turn we can go for Finn if we think the coast is clear. I'll hang on to the Wildfire. So our opponent's out of green mana. Never mind, Ba Sing Se. And a split up to destroy the Scarlet Witch. Okay, so then can still go for Finn. Play Tablets, but then I know I'm milling Demolish. So maybe it's just Finn, play the Wildfire. So then they most likely have a way to remove Finn still, or maybe it was the split up they were waiting on. Yeah, I'll wait on the tablets, try and get a bit more value, I think. Although there's a chance that I mill something castable. Although if I mill a 4-drop, I'm gonna be 1 mana short here. So I'll wait. Opponent with a Kami, that one's scary. Okay, play Tablets. Can cast a spell before they get a chance to exile it with Ooze. And a smashing success is looking good. So I'll go for the green mana once again. And then Demolish can get the remaining lanes. Although they do still have a Kami, which can make mana. So they're not completely out of the game. But Finn is quite large. Fire Crystal can also make a token that's a copy of a creature, but not the best with a legendary. So I am still top decking here. Opponent did have a forest, and now Gaia's Gift. I'm down to 10. A redirect lightning the draw. So how many creatures are in graveyard? Currently no creatures left, so... Yeah, I think we just attack and then hope to get there next turn. Can redirect if needed. Even paying the extra mana. Cavern on Ninja. And now an Inspiring Call. Nothing I can redirect. Take 7. Somewhat surprised I didn't save the Gaia's Gift to block Finn, since it also gives reach, I believe. So, yeah, that could have maybe bought them an extra turn, but I'll take it. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, facing the 5-color Shrine deck. Got a Magus, which could come in handy if their mana base is mostly non-basics. Yeah, I'll try this. Can answer some artifact ramp, even flash it back. Opponent starts with Stomping Ground and Halfling. Alright, now Pyroclasm's a nice answer to the Halfling. And then hope that Magus is effective. They do have a basic Swamp and a Chronicler, which can make a man of any color. So maybe flashback Pyroclasm is the play. Since we want to do that before we play the Magus anyway. So then they won't be able to play Hei Bai just yet. Now Godless Shrine and a Birds, so more mana creatures. Alright, I mean, I'll play the Magus now. But I'll still be able to play Hei Bai. But hopefully not much else. Oof, that was the worst case scenario. Opponent hitting the Fruitful Harvest, so they can make whatever mana they need. Still haven't drawn a land, so I'll go Tablets, Bolt a Bird. But yeah, the Fruitful Harvest still enables the rest of their hand. I'm blue for Spirit Oasis. So now Harvest can make 2 mana. More mana creatures. Alright, finally time to play Finn. And then I can take out one of the opponent's creatures if I want. I think we wait. Also don't necessarily want him to replay Hei Bai. Yeah, most other Sanctums probably would have been beatable. So they've got every color except blue. But maybe they still messed up. It's gonna be an Avacyn's Pilgrim. That can also make white. Okay, so smashing success. I'll go after Swamp and Forest. Hit you for 5. Do we want to Hulk Smash anything? Yeah, I can maybe go after the Elvish Mystic here. And next turn we could technically Starve Extinction as well. But I don't think that benefits me right now. It's gonna be a Roaming Throne next. Naming Bear. And a Pyromancer. So I can play Pyromancer discarding the star. I think that's okay. Find 2 mountains, not the best. So hoping for a little bit more land destruction to throw them off balance. Fruitful Harvest definitely keeping them alive here. They went for blue even though they had an island. So they need triple blue, or they had a Cyclonic Rift. Alright, so everything back to hand. Now I could Field of Ruin something. Doesn't seem necessary. And a Winter Moon, okay. So Winter Moon's decent. I think I still start with a tablet. Find a Chandra. Do we even want to answer Hei Bai, especially with roaming thrown out? That seems a little ambitious. Could still go for Chandra, make mana, play Magus, or maybe play Pyromancer to make some chum blockers. And then discard Winter Moon and Magus. And hope to find something to pair with Finn. So, yeah, maybe next turn we get to copy the Boomy Bash. So the opponent's mana is back online. They're gonna fetch a bunch of basics since they're aware of Magus of the Moon and other Blood Moon effects. They have more basics than I imagined. And now a Virtue of Knowledge. Yeah, definitely don't want Hei Bai to die. Seasoned Pyromancer could also just help triple block Roaming Throne, to be fair. Chandra will still be at 1 loyalty. Yeah, I don't hate that idea. And find Valakut, that's a big deal. Okay, so can play Finn, play Boomy Bash, destroying 2 non-basic lanes, and then I guess I could still Field of Ruin after having played Valakut.
Today's my lucky day.
So then if I Field of Ruin now, I can either put my opponent to 6, or take out the Pilgrim, or we can just use a Surge to take out the Pilgrim, and then save Field of Ruin. Although I guess this also needs a non-basic on the opponent's side before we can use it anyway. So, do this. Can protect Chandra. Can make more tokens next turn. And then now mountains are welcome with the Valakut. Ooh, that's a scary one. Life's Origin. So our opponent's gonna get a million triggers here. Well, I mean, if they don't find an answer to Finn, that can still maybe go the distance, but yeah. You just got to see with the Virtue of Knowledge how much value they managed to generate. Opponent's now gambling, maybe for a Flicker effect for Hei Bai. And they're pretty likely gonna get to keep it. Maybe a Splash Portal here. They discarded the Capstone, and it's going to be an Essence Flux on Hei Bai. Alright, let's see which shrines they find. Sanctum of All. And get a million triggers. At least they didn't gain any life or anything. Yeah, this is getting out of hand. Any chance our opponent decks themselves? Probably not. And then the Air Temple for +1 counters. So I need to win next turn or else we're easily gonna get run over. Alright, opponent gets to keep drawing. Hopefully they don't have any free spells they can pitch from their hand. But this is pretty ridiculous now with the Sanctum also powered on. So 48 +1 counters on these shrines that just entered the battlefield this turn. But our opponent is at 9, we have a 5-powered Finn. That's a mountain, that's 3 damage. So then, yeah, if I attack and just deal 2 with Chandra, they're dead.
Oh, this is gonna hurt.
And not a lot of damage to spare. Opponent may be conceding prematurely here, but yeah, we have the mountain for Valakut. Cannot use Field of Ruin without a non-basic land on the opponent's side to target. So we weren't able to activate it just yet. But I'll take it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing the Verbose host. This hand's a little awkward against mono blue since we have multiple land destruction spells that only work against the non-basic lands. So I don't think I'm keeping on the play with gemstones. Not perfect, but yeah, this hand could work. Can maybe redirect a counterspell as well. Still gonna Guardian Idol in the hopes of playing Finn next turn. And our opponent's gonna immediately get their speed up with our evasive flyer. So could wait a turn on Finn, but then we maybe run into counterspells. Playing Finn now can maybe run into some aura, shutting it down. But I think we still try it. And they could also just have a bunch of bounce spells. Alright, fresh starts makes it lose all abilities. Can eventually reset it with a Star of Extinction. So then for now, Flame Slash versus Double Vision. I kind of want to just play the Cold Steel Heart to set up Star of Extinction. So I'll start here. So yeah, that was the risk of tapping out for Finn as opposed to maybe waiting on the redirect lightning. If they tap out for their commander and I draw a land for Star, I'm pretty happy. They're gonna be a looter, and then maybe they'll keep up a counterspell here. Alright, I guess we'll try the Double Vision then. And that resolves. And a Drowner end of turn. Okay, I mean, Star of Extinction copied by Double Vision could still be fun. Get to blow up 2 lands and really destroy all creatures. But now Enduring Curiosity will help them draw 3. Good news is they're tapped out, so just need a land off the top. Should specify untapped land since we have the 1 Valakut. Ooh, Boomerang Basics, so let's redirect that. Paying 5. And I even get to copy this. Does that matter? Not really. So then I can either bounce Enduring Curiosity or I can bounce Finn so I don't have to pay the commander tax. Yeah, that might be better. Alright, let's Star of Extinction. So 2 lands are gone. And then hoping for more land destruction, pretty much. Crawler's fine. It's also an artifact I could maybe target. Hulk Smash is an instant. So I could try and wait, and then if they play another creature with Hulk Smash... Yeah, if I fight with Finn, targeting Crawler, I still get to copy the Hulk Smash. So we maybe get to take something else out. And I also don't mind drawing an extra card here. Hope of Girapur is fine, another artifact creature. And our opponent with a downpour. So they want to once again shut down my commander. I have a response. So cast it without teamwork. Target the crawler. Copy with Finn, and I guess even with the double vision, but 2 copies are enough. So then now the downpour resolves, but we still get to keep those +1 counters, so 3/3 is a little bit better. I get to resolve Chandra. And let's go digging for spells.
Burn Phyrexia to ash.
Find a Paratic Ritual.
Think on your feet.
Not particularly useful. Opponent now with an Ingot. That one's indestructible, which is relevant. Chandra keeps digging. Alright, that's a bit better.
Bad time to improvise.
Can only choose one of these. I think I like the Price of Freedom just because it draws. And I could use more action. Alternatively, Stone Rain to destroy a land. I mean, I guess Finn is shut down. I do still get to copy of Double Vision and Chandra, however. So maybe I do just Stone Rain. Still get to destroy 3 lands, and opponent's probably not recovering from that. And yeah, that'll do it. Awesome. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, facing Noctis, so basically Kenrith, 5-color good stuff. Well, we certainly have some cards that can punish a 5-color mana base. Just have some good land destruction here. Mindstone can maybe set up a turn 3 Finn. And we like to see those non-basic lands, especially if we draw a Blood Moon effect. All creature lands so far, so maybe that's their theme. Yeah, I mean, we'll still try Finn. May get answered. And then resolving Double Vision before we start destroying stuff could be worth it. Alright, I mean, best case scenario, Jaya resolves. I get to make mana. And then copy a Stone Rain.
Fight fire with fire. But what kind of
Targeting probably the blue mana. That's the scary color. Could also go for both green sources, so they can't ramp and fix their colors. Alright, that works. Well, it's gonna be tough to recover from this. Another tapped creature land. So not sure what their plan is here, but I'm intrigued.
Is it hot in here, or is it
So now I can Double Vision, copy the Boomy Bash, hit your 2 creature lanes, and our opponent's not going to have much left over. Since Double Vision also triggers, so this is just the clean sweep. This is the point where I start feeling kind of bad for my opponent. But that's part of playing the land destruction deck. You gotta have thick skin. Alright, so what do we want to do with Jaya? Probably go digging.
combat requires strategy
Don't think we need any of these.
and activity?
Alright, cleansing Wildfire. Now the sad part about Wildfire is that the copy is gonna go to waste. Since opponent only has the 1 land. So I'll just put them out of their misery here, copy the Lightning Bolt. Could also go for Fiery Confluence, and then still Lightning Bolts at instant speed in their turn to copy with double vision, but that's not going to be necessary. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Hei Bai once again. So the hope is that we can punish their greedy mana base by destroying a few key lanes. This hand has a good start, can maybe answer a mana creature or Hei Bai itself. The problem is we don't have any land destruction around 4 mana. 7 mana Star of Extinction is going to take a while to get to. I think I still try it since we have a lot of those 4 mana sorceries that can destroy a land. And on turn 1 exploration, alright, so they're quickly gonna deploy a bunch of lanes. But once they run out, we might be able to catch up. But yeah, this could be a turn 2 Hei Bai. They've got a Talisman instead, can maybe blow it up with Brotherhood's End. But then I'm not going to want to play the Guardian Idol first myself. So I think I'm still better off trying to play Finn. And then we'll see if we find a different answer to the Talisman. So our opponent played Exploration, but immediately ran out of lanes. And yeah, I mean, now the Brotherhood's End is looking better. Destroying 2 of the opponent's Talismans, 1 of my Guardian Idols. Or I can play Finn. Opponent gets to play Hei Bai. Hopefully they don't hit some scary enchantment. And then we can start taking over from there. Or I can just Brotherhood's End now. Next turn play Finn. I think that's going to be better. If they had another 2 mana artifact in hand, they would have been able to play it, so we know they don't. Now they do have 2 basics, so I wouldn't be able to use the Artisan just yet. Now Farseek will probably get a non-basic. Could also double vision. Although what am I copying here is the question. Artisan's the only castable spell at the moment. So yeah, I mean maybe just going Artisan and then use the Adventure is good enough. Or the prepared spell, I should say. Even if we're only destroying 1 land with it. And yeah, that's good enough, I'll take it. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, facing Katara. This is usually pulling teeth. Do we think we have a keepable hand? I mean, it's got mana. It's got an answer to Katara, so pretty much all I can ask for. But expecting all my relevant spells to get countered and eventually to get buried by their commander. Opponent's going to consider. Could play around a Daze by going for Transformer, but let's dream big. I guess we also have the Eruption, which I could play untapped for 3 life. Just play tap now. So then next turn I get to double spell, Transformer with Finn. Finn gets countered. Could also wait a bit longer on it. And just play Zhao as a distraction, hit him with a Guardian Idol. Well, probably wanted to keep that one untapped. That's alright. Maybe I'll end up cycling Sweltering Suns now. Opponent's gonna bounce the Power Stone. So that'll set me back on mana. Yeah, I'll cycle the Suns, even though it's my only answer to Katara at the moment. And Zhao did make the escape tunnel and her tapped at least. Okay, so Zhao attacks. And then we have 7 mana. So probably replay Power Stone. And could just animate the idol. Kind of force them to make the first move. They're gonna bounce that as well. Although it enters back with a +1 counter, so not the best answer actually. If we can resolve the One Ring, I would be pretty happy, but not counting on it. So maybe get Finn countered and resolve the ring. Yeah, that gets counterspelled. Could have tried Ruby Medallion first, but now we're playing around Days. So Force of Negation is the only real answer they can have left. Alright, and then I can draw now. And may as well attack since we're not blocking. But yeah, Katara can already start drawing here. And that's gonna get out of hand pretty quickly. At least Katara's not known to deal a lot of damage, so the life loss from the One Ring is not gonna hurt too much. But we've probably resolved all the spells we'll get to resolve this game. So draw with a ring. Okay, Lightning Bolt's a good one. So what are we thinking? Start with a Medallion. Can play a Lightning Greaves. Protect Zhao. And then I think we're just on the Animate Guardian Idol plan. Hit for 5. And then by bolting in their turn, we force them to cast a counterspell then, as opposed to getting more experience of Katara. Opponent bounces a Power Stone again. And proliferates the experience. A Messenger. Resolves. And then now I need to bolt, and we'll probably see a response. Keep safe. But now they're mostly tapped out, so they may not be able to stop Finn. And draw 3, discard. Take my turn. Hulk Smash, so that's more removal. Okay, so start by drawing again. Now redirect lightning could be huge. So how about a Seething Song to kick things off? Play Finn. Opponent's got a Remand. And then I can redirect the Remand, or I can just let it happen, replay, and then take out Katara. That seems fine. Can replay it for 3 mana now. And then the idol is not attacking this turn, so... Okay, so then we want to Hulk Smash without teamwork. Katara down. And then I can attack and then Pyroclasm to get rid of the messenger. have our redirect lightning up. So we can maybe redirect a counter spell. Pyromancer is decent. Still gonna draw. Valakut is a nice one and something our opponent can't easily stop. So play that. Might be time for Pyromancer. Hope to draw some more useful cards. Discarding Blood Moon and Mindstone, so we get 2 tokens. Chandra's Revolution is a good one. Because then even if our opponent counters it, we still get the copy. So they would need some hexproof trick instead. And our opponent scoops it up. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing the unbeatable Squirrel Girl. So we do need some board wipes, ideally. Confluence can at most deal 3 to all their creatures. Don't expect Zhao to be very effective, so I think we can do better. Alright, I mean, Crumble to Dust is probably not going to be great. Malfunction's probably not going to be at its best. I do like Mindstone and the One Ring. So we're mostly keeping based on the strength of those cards. Alright, now a Storm's Wrath is a big help. 4 damage, doesn't take out our 5 toughness Finn. And we'll clean up the rest. Opponent with a Banter Mole. And now a Fire Crystal, is that better? Yeah, might be better than Finn. Makes it more likely that we can double spell next turn. Maybe I'll draw one of those 2 mana land destruction spells and we can cast both. They did finally play a non-basic land, so could be a target for Crumble. Now Cryptolithrites can be part of the Infinite Squirrel combo with Squirrel Girl. Now of course, if they cannot give those squirrels haste or play like a Craterhoof Behemoth, the Wrath could still clean up afterwards. So yeah, they can still cast their commander here. And then I might be forced to Wrath. Badger Mole just hits for 2. Found an Avengers disassembled. That's another good one. Do we think our opponent can combo kill us next turn if we let him untap? Seems unlikely. Get to keep up the Malfunction. And then next turn we should be able to clean up. Opponent had a Verdant command to make a few squirrels. Okay, now they've got essentially 4 more mana to work with. And they've got more squirrels to start out. Summon Fenrir, Devotion's up to 3. Is it time for Squirrel Girl? They can play her and then Nykthos will have 3 more Devotion. They can still activate it. Nope, it's going to be a Nantuko. So I can change the target with Malfunction. Is that worth it? Yeah, maybe it is. And then we can just target a Squirrel token, I guess. Fountain Port, another non-basic land. Alright, I mean, our sweepers are looking good. Crumble does not get the discount from Fire Crystal because it's devoid. So it wouldn't be able to crumble and disassemble. But yeah, opponent finally commits Squirrel Girl, so now either one of our sweepers can clean up. They did have a Boseiju that they were saving. Anything else? And that's it. So our opponent does seem pretty tapped out to me. So then with 6 mana, just copying Avengers Disassembled seems good enough. And then I do not want to target the non-basic lands, since we want to take those out with Crumble. And then the Nantuko comes back, gets destroyed by the second wave. So that's extra brutal. Well, that was a blowout. Hit for 5. And then next turn maybe crumble the 2 non-basics. They can replay the Squirrel Girl. Don't have to answer it right this second. Can catch it with a Wrath later. Alright, we'll crumble. Opponent holding Defense of the Heart, good to know about. Kind of a quick peek at their deck, but I imagine it's a pretty normal looking Squirrel Girl combo deck. Alright, so hit you for 7. Did certainly get lucky to draw these sweepers in time. But yeah, once we Wrath, the game should be pretty much over. They can still activate a second time thanks to Cryptolith Rites. And Blood Moon not looking great. So all I can do is Wrath. Could also wait one more turn. Maybe I'm playing with fire a little bit, but we do have the One Ring. So it's not like they can kill me through that, even with a Craterhoof Behemoth. Yeah, maybe that's worth it. I guess if they have like a questing beast, I could still die. Didn't double check if they had one. But now our opponent still has a little bit of hope. They still need to deal with a Flying Fin. And our opponent scoops it up. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, facing Ugin, the Ineffable. Well, this is going to be a really tough matchup. We have some good early acceleration, just waiting on a land destruction spell to copy. Or artifact removal could be good too. I'll give it a shot. And then with Flashback we can get that spell back, so we can get a lot of mileage out of it. Opponent's probably going to be ramping quite a bit themselves. Manifold Key can untap some artifacts. My colorless artifacts are safe from Ugin's minus ability. They could still take out the Fire Crystal. And the UFO. Alright, a Braid is exciting. So then now I just go for Fin. Could also still Fire Crystal, and then next turn play 3 mana Fin and 1 mana a Braid. Which is pretty decent too. Yeah, I mean, there's no real downside to playing Fin now, I don't think. It's not like they're going to be able to answer it. And if I draw some 4 mana land destruction spell, that may be better. They do not have any artifact lands I can destroy. But now a Cloud Key, and naming artifacts, and a 1 mana energy refractor. Okay, so this turn I'm liking Fire Crystal into copy my Abrade. Could also Abrade and then flashback Abrade. But there's only 2 artifacts I need to destroy right now. So Fire Crystal's good enough. And I'll hit the UFO, so they cannot cast Ugin next turn. Hit you for 5. Chandra's looking good too. And our opponent scoops it up. Alright, I guess that'll do it. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, facing Hei Bai. Once again, our hand is basically relying on Blood Moon. And then Abrade can maybe take out a mana creature. Yeah, I mean, this could work out. Could also fail spectacularly. Opponent with a non-basic Boseiju into Wooded Foothills, probably getting a dual land or tri-land. A Lush Portico. But yeah, with turn 1 exploration, they could already play Hei Bai on turn 2. We just have the 1 mountain in play. They do have a basic plains, and now a Chronicler can also fix their colors. So we'll probably be abrading that. So, they fail to play another land out. So the exploration has run its course. Now Sithis. Could ritual out Finn. I think I like the Blood Moon here. Leave them with just white mana and red. So possible they have some removal that they can still cast. That's a Hallowed Fountain Mountain. Okay, let's go for Finn. With the white mana they could still answer it, so we'll see what happens. And they had a swords. Fair enough. So with a land I can still recast it with ritual. Opponent now with 5 mana, 4 mountains and a plains. Yeah, I think Finn is reasonable. Could also just ritual out Ugin, which in turn makes more mana. That's probably better. So then we'll still have to wait 1 turn to make that work. Because yeah, flashback ritual doesn't produce any additional mana. So then I guess I'm just passing here. It's not like our opponent's really doing much. Alright, and our opponent scoops it up, so that's a quick win from our Blood Moon. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing a leader Super Genius, so mono blue. Our hand seems functional, although can certainly expect a few counter spells to interact with our game plan. For now, a Grifter. Can maybe wait to clean things up with a Storm's Wrath. And Grifter attacks, opponent passes with mana up. Instead of getting Finn countered, we can try the Fire Crystal first. Still nice if it resolves. So then I could theoretically go for an Arcane Bombardment already. Opponent with maybe a play, nope, just hits for 1. Alright, so I would rather get Finn countered than the Arcane Bombardment, to be fair. Don't feel the need to Flame Slash the Grifter just yet. Could also just cast a Demolish, destroy a land. So we've got some options. I think I go for Demolish, That way, if they counter this, it probably still ends up in the graveyard, and then if I draw a land, I can maybe go Bombardment, Flame Slash, get back Demolish. Turns out they went for a Dictate of Krufix. So a Howling Mine that lets them draw the extra card first. Find a Lightning Greaves and a Chandra. Alright, I mean, if they have any counter spells, surely they'll fight over Chandra. So then I can make mana and still try Finn. That works. Hit for 3 thanks to the Fire Crystal. And I'm not too compelled to Flame Slash, even though Chandra might take a hit. I see Brain Freeze. Opponent's milling me. I'm not sure what their goal is. It will potentially make my Arcane Bombardment worse, since now I'm not guaranteed to get back the Demolish. Avenger Disassembled. Untimely Malfunction, Starve Extinction, Pyroclasm. So yeah, my Bombardment is certainly worse now. Scrawling Crawler synergizes with the Dictate of Krufix. So we're taking some hits. Chandra's still happy to make mana.
This is gonna hurt.
We can still go for the Bombardment into Flame Slash. And then take out the Crawler. And yeah, I guess since we're targeting an artifact, we get to copy the Flame Slash, so that worked out. And then Pyroclasm, I don't need to cast right now. Play the Greaves, protect Finn. And hit you for 5. So we're super far ahead here. Our opponent not quite breaking the symmetry of Dictate of Krufix. Runs out a Leader Super Genius. So they get to connive and draw a couple more cards. Still within range of a Storm's Wrath. Chandra could also minus to deal 4 damage. Alright, so what makes more sense? Wrath will trigger Arcane Bombardment. So maybe I start by exiling the top card, see what we find. A Cold Steel Heart, I guess we'll cast. And then we can Storm's Wrath. Even though I'll also lose a bit of loyalty. I did hit the Demolish, so yeah, that's gonna be pretty brutal here. Copy the Demolish with Finn, opponent's down to 2 lanes, no board, and that'll do it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Kumena, blue-green Merfolk. Alright, so what do we think of our hand? Yeah, it seems functional. The Ruby Medallion to discount our spells. We're on the play, so don't get to make use of the Gemstone Caverns. But you could argue that being on the play is lucky enough. And then the Revolution could double up as removal. That can also slow the opponent down by tapping down a land. So this one could be nice to copy with Finn. We'll see which types of lands they're prioritizing. And Breeding Pool, so could be affected by the Blood Moon. And now Flare of Denial. Has to sack a blue creature specifically. But yeah, that could be a good answer depending on what they play next turn. And our opponent did keep it on top. Could have forced a shuffle by using Price of Freedom on the breeding pool, but I don't think that was quite what we wanted to do here. So if they don't play a blue creature, probably go for Finn. If they do play a blue creature, I might have to reconsider. Another non-basic land, so Blood Moon's also looking good. Scout hits for 2, opponent passes. So very much possible that they have some other counterspell for Finn. Yeah, could slow down with a Blood Moon. Although then if they play Kumena, they can always sack their commander to counter mine. Probably not something they're willing to do, to be honest. So I'll start here. And that'll probably force a response. A Jwari Disruption I can pay for. Maybe they also have a Daze. Yeah, looks like it. Well, I mean, glad we didn't tap out for Finn, since they had multiple good answers. Now they set themselves back on mana. And yeah, shields down on a counterspell. So I can play Finn and Price of Freedom. They do get some replacement basic lands. So I'm potentially nerfing my own Crumble to dust. But I get to draw 2 cards, which seems worth it. Alright, Boomy Bash also wants non-basic lands, but can always target creatures. And Namor. So now they could sack Namor to the Flare, but either way I can copy the Chandra's Revolution, so that's a pretty good sequence. Play Transformer. A Revolution. Target the scouts, target your island maybe. Target Namor. So they could counter the Revolution that's trying to take out the scouts. Yep. But then one land will still be tapped. We baited out the Flare. So it still feels pretty good. And there's a nice non-basic land for me. So I could start with a Gambit or Resolve a One Ring. Get that going for now. I'll still Gambit the basic lanes. And then I haven't played land for turn yet, so if I find one I can still activate the ring. And then Boomy Bash can maybe answer Kumena. But now we're super far ahead on resources. This land will enter untapped, so they can still maybe make use of it. Small chance they are low on basics, but in a 2-color deck, they usually have enough that they can keep fetching them up. It's mostly against 3+ color decks where running them out of basics is a real strategy. Their opponent's down to 6, can draw with a ring at any point here. And we can maybe discard some useless removal spells with a Pyromancer. Opponent with Namora does have flying. And another non-basic Hedge Maze. I like to see that. And yeah, our opponent scoops it up too far behind. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Hei Bai. Is this the 4th one today? I've lost track. But we've got a keeper. Valakut. Turn 2 can Cold Steel Heart. And then we want to try and copy the rocket volley. So like to see those non-basics. Azorius Signet. Alright, so play Finn, and then the next turn we could go Artisan, copy the rocket volley. They did actually have another basic island, so currently missing a second target for the volley. The Surge could target their artifact, and then I get to copy this. So I still get to deal 3 to Hei Bai twice, I believe. There's also an argument for ritualing out the bombardment here. But maybe we deal with Hei Bai first, so they can flicker it. And since this has 2 different targets, it doesn't fizzle. So we can hit him for 5. And maybe next turn get the bombardment going. Unless they play non-basic, then Artisan is looking good. But yeah, somehow another basic island. And another Sanctum. Okay, so just play bombardment, hit for 5, looks good. Or do we feel compelled to just destroy the 1 district anyway? Still grows Finn. Yeah, maybe that's still worth it. Hit you for 10. So we are presenting lethal here. Bonus now missing green to recast our commander. Cavern on Bear would have been a nice target. Still only 5 mana total. And another Signet. Can maybe hope to copy the Overwhelming Surge at some point. And then the Sanctum can probably take out Artisan. That's fine. And Magus would turn Cavern into a mountain as well. Not the most effective card right now. So I think we attack. Could also animate Guardian Idol for 2 more damage. I think Bombardment still looks a little bit better. So let's attack. And try the bombardment. And then at least a ritual is a way to trigger it. And there's Hei Bai, hoping for the best. But yeah, they're still dead on board here. Can cast a ritual just to see what we get. The Surge, so we can once again target Hei Bai and an artifact, Hei Bai and an artifact, grow Finn, and then still animate Idol plus play Magus. So we got to see this mono-red land destruction deck in action, and we do have to play some pretty janky 4-mana sorceries to make this strategy work on Arena, so it's certainly not the most competitive deck, but when your commander survives and you actually get to double those land destruction spells, it doesn't matter if they're 4 mana or 3 mana, the opponent's still gonna lose most of their mana base, and from there you can pretty quickly take over, with Finn also picking up additional counters to quickly close out the game. So I would not recommend it if you're looking for a deck that's gonna win most of its games, but if you're just in the mood to destroy some lands, this is probably the commander to do it with. So yeah, that's gonna do it for today's gameplay. Wanna thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.